Good morning students. Now start with limbic system part 3. Here the first point will be the introduction of limbic system. The second point will be the entire indusium gracium. Third point will be the entire dentate gyrus. And the fourth point will be the hippocampus. Based on these 4 points, introduction, gracium, dentate gyrus and hippocampus, we will today finish the entire anatomy of the limbic system. Now, first introduction. In the introduction, we want to introduce the entire hippocampal formation. So our main topic for today is hippocampal formation, in which its components are indusium gracium, dentate gyrus and hippocampus. So hippocampal formation is our introduction. So therefore, we will draw this entire diagram here, and this diagram we will draw it as the cerebral hemisphere. Please draw this diagram. Similarly, then we start with the corpus callosum, and we draw this corpus callosum. Here we have the corpus callosum, so therefore genu and splenium. Similarly, then we show the cingulate gyrus. So therefore, we will draw the cingulate gyrus in the form of orange color. So here we show the entire cingulate gyrus, and then we continue the cingulate gyrus here in the temporal lobe, and this we consider it as parahippocampal gyrus. So here we will continue this as parahippocampal gyrus, and it will go anteriorly, and we will show it as uncus. So here this will be the uncus. Therefore, we will write down here cingulate gyrus. Here this one will be parahippocampal gyrus, and this structure here will be the uncus. Similarly, after completing this, we will show the hippocampus, and that hippocampus we will show it in such a way that here we will draw this structure, and this will be the hippocampus. Please draw this structure, and gyrus fasciolaris, this is the gyrus fasciolaris, and then above it will continue just above splenium and the body of corpus callosum as indusium gracium. Indusium gracium, and then medial and lateral on longitudinal striae, and then it will continue anteriorly in the para-terminal gyrus. So this is the para-terminal gyrus, just in front of lamina terminalis. Just in front of lamina terminalis, the para-terminal gyrus. So indusium gracium will continue anteriorly with the para-terminal gyrus, and here we show that this cingulate gyrus anteriorly, it will merge with the para-terminal gyrus. This is the basic structure. And now, in the introduction, first point, the entire hippocampal formation is made up of the following parts. What are the following parts? Number 1, hippocampus. Number 2, there will be gyrus fasciolaris. So here I will mention this as hippocampus. Number 2, the gyrus fasciolaris. So therefore, this structure here, I will mention this as gyrus fasciolaris. The gyrus fasciolaris. G, I am very sorry, this G I will slightly make it clear. So therefore, gyrus fasciolaris. Third structure, it will continue above the body as indusium gracium. And the fourth structure, same indusium gracium, here it will continue anteriorly as medial and lateral longitudinal striae. Medial and lateral longitudinal striae. And anteriorly, in front of the lamina terminalis, in front of the genu, below the genu and lamina terminalis, it will continue as para-terminal gyrus. Para-terminal gyrus. So therefore, this entire formation will be hippocampal formation. Now, situated here on the hippocampus, there will be a portion which will be known as dentate gyrus. So here we will show this structure here as dentate gyrus, and this dentate gyrus will continue as the gyrus faciolaris posteriorly. The dentate gyrus will continue posteriorly as gyrus faciolaris. This segment is also very important, so here we will make this as dentate gyrus. So here, this is our hippocampal formation. Now, initially, we have seen this during development that this hippocampus will develop in the medial surface of the cerebral hemisphere. During the development, we have seen this. It is archipedium. It consists of archipedium. And in this archipedial cortex, there will be initially development of hippocampus on the medial surface of cerebral hemisphere. Gradually, this hippocampus will develop. But as it develops from anterior to posterior, there will be growth of corpus callosum. This growth of corpus callosum, as the corpus callosum is growing backwards, what it will do will be, it will split the entire hippocampus. This hippocampus will be split in two parts because of backward growth of the corpus callosum. And those two parts will be the portion of hippocampus which will be lying just above the splenium and body. And that portion will become indusium graecium, which is a vestigial matter. And this indusium graecium will continue anteriorly. Still it will continue anteriorly above the corpus callosum as medial and lateral longitudinal striae. So together indusium graecium and medial and lateral longitudinal striae, they become vestigial matter. But this hippocampus, as it has split into two parts by the growth of the corpus callosum, the growth of corpus callosum backwards, the lower part of this hippocampus will be represented as, this lower part will be represented as septum pellucidum. This point also we have covered and we have discussed, septum pellucidum during the development. So therefore, the backward growth of corpus callosum will split the entire hippocampus into two parts, superior and inferior. Superiorly it will be represented as indusium graecium and medial and lateral longitudinal striae, and inferiorly it will be represented as septum pellucidum. So therefore here we will mention this as septum pellucidum. Very important point which we have discussed. Now we come to this entire hippocampus will be more prominent in the lower part, where in the temporal lobe. So therefore in the lower part in temporal lobe, this hippocampus will be very much prominent in the form of dentate gyrus. The dentate gyrus which we have drawn will come in detail when we take this point on dentate gyrus, point number 3. We'll go in detail over there. So therefore, this is the basic introduction. Now, in this introduction, we complete this introduction by the white matter, the fibers of hippocampus. And that white matter, the fibers of hippocampus, where I will put yellow color, it will be passing from the white matter covering the hippocampus. Small amount of white matter will cover the hippocampus. It will start in the form of alveus. So this starting formation is alveus. Slowly it will continue above this dentate gyrus. It will continue above this dentate gyrus as fimbria. Then it will continue posteriorly and below the splenium, curving around the thalamus, it will continue as the crura of the fornix. And then it will form the body of fornix. And then after coming here in front, it will split into the two anterior columns of fornix. And here we show that this fornices will divide into two parts. This is how we show. And we leave this portion over here. We will complete this when we come to the fornices, when we take the last point. So therefore here simply we will note down this as the alveus, A-L-V-E-U-S. Then here we will note this as the fimbria. Alveus will continue posteriorly as the fimbria. Similarly, now here this I will thicken it and I can show that it is just passing over the dentate gyrus, fimbria, and then posteriorly this will be the posterior columns of fornix. So simply fornices, and here this will be the body of the fornix, which will be present just below septum pellucidum. So therefore this is the body of the fornix. And in the middle here, in order to complete the diagram, we can show that this structure will be the thalamus. So this structure will be the thalamus. This is the structure of thalamus, curving around the posterior surface of the thalamus. So therefore, here we finish the entire introduction of the hippocampal formation. This is our introduction here. Now, we come to the second point. Second point is indusium graecium. Once again, this indusium graecium will be the vestigial matter. It will be present on the superior surface of the splenium as well as the body of corpus callosum. Indusium graecium will continue posteriorly as dentate gyrus, where it will curve around, and then the dentate gyrus is formed where? In the temporal lobe. That means it will be present where? In the temporal lobe. This dentate gyrus will be present, and it will serve as the main landmark of hippocampus. So therefore, this is asked often in MCQs or in 1 mark question answer. The posterior continuation of dentate gyrus is gyrus fasciolaris. Indusium graecium will continue posteriorly as dentate gyrus through gyrus fasciolaris. So what is gyrus fasciolaris? It is the important connection between the indusium graecium present superior to the corpus callosum and dentate gyrus, which is present in the inferior part, that is in the temporal lobe. That is the part of hippocampal formation. So indusium graecium will continue anteriorly on the body of corpus callosum as medial and lateral longitudinal striae, and posteriorly it will continue lower down as dentate gyrus through gyrus fasciolaris, and therefore this gyrus fasciolaris will be surrounding the splenium of corpus callosum, where it will serve as an important link between the indusium graecium above and dentate gyrus below. So this much portion will be the gyrus fasciolaris. Here we finish the indusium graecium. Now we come to third point, dentate gyrus, main component of the hippocampal formation. Now this dentate gyrus present here, this dentate gyrus will continue, number 1, posteriorly with gyrus fasciolaris. Number 2, this dentate gyrus will be present, exact location, it will be present just on parahippocampal gyrus. So it will travel on the surface of parahippocampal gyrus. Third important point, the parahippocampal gyrus will be located inferolateral to dentate gyrus. Very important. When you see in the dissection, when you open up, you will see that this dentate gyrus is present in such a way that parahippocampal gyrus is located inferolateral to the dentate gyrus. Note down this point. Location of parahippocampal gyrus is inferolateral to dentate gyrus. Another important point about the location of dentate gyrus. This dentate gyrus will be present in such a way that anteriorly it will cover uncus. Anteriorly it will stretch till the uncus. So therefore, this dentate gyrus, as it covers anteriorly till the uncus, it will suddenly turn back and medially. So it will take a backward turn and medially over the uncus, and where it will be known as the tail of dentate gyrus. This backward turning and medialwards turning of the dentate gyrus over the uncus is known as the tail of dentate gyrus. This is also asked in MCQs or 1 mark question answer, and therefore this tail of dentate gyrus will be known as band of Giacomini. GIA, band of Giacomini. What is band of Giacomini? That band of Giacomini, G-I-A, Comini, C-O. So Giacomini, band of Giacomini is the tail of dentate gyrus which is turning on the surface of uncus, and therefore it will divide the uncus into 2 small gyri. The anterior part of the uncus divided by this tail of Giacomini will be known as the uncinate gyrus, and the posterior part of the uncus, small part, will be known as intralimbic gyrus. So uncus is divided into 2 gyri by the tail of dentate gyrus. That tail of dentate gyrus is called band of Giacomini, and therefore as a result of which the uncus, which is divided into anterior and posterior gyri, will be known as anteriorly uncinate gyrus, posteriorly intralimbic gyrus. So what is uncinate gyrus? What is intralimbic gyrus? 1 mark question answer. This is how you can explain. Now this dentate gyrus, as I told you, is present on the surface of parahippocampal gyrus, or the parahippocampal gyrus will be located inferolateral to dentate gyrus. So therefore, there will be a sulcus separating parahippocampal gyrus and dentate gyrus, and that sulcus is called hippocampal sulcus. And therefore, this will be the hippocampal sulcus which will separate the dentate gyrus from the parahippocampal gyrus. Hippocampal sulcus, where my finger is pointing. So this is the hippocampal sulcus. Now, this dentate gyrus will be covered by a small white fibers, and these white fibers are the efferent tracts of the hippocampus, and these white fibers are known as alveus, and this alveus is the starting point of the efferent fibers. So this alveus will continue posteriorly as fimbria. So in short, dentate gyrus is covered by white fibers which will be known as fimbria. And here we complete the dentate gyrus discussion. So please note down, dentate gyrus continues posteriorly as gyrus fasciolaris. And this dentate gyrus is present where? As I told you, the location. Very important. Here we complete the dentate gyrus. So point number 3, we have completed dentate gyrus. Now we come to point number 4, hippocampus. Very interesting, hippocampus. Now since it is the main component, so many points are there of hippocampus. Number 1, first point. This hippocampus is in the form of elongated swelling which will produce elevation in the inferior horn of lateral ventricle. These are the proper terminologies. It is in the form of a elongated swelling, elongated mass which will produce a swelling in the inferior horn of lateral ventricle. And therefore, second important point, this hippocampus will be bulbous extremity. The most anterior end of hippocampus will form a bulbous extremity which will be covered by oblique grooves on its surface. And as it is covered by oblique grooves on its surface, that anterior extremity will resemble paws of animal, and therefore the name given here will be pes hippocampi. PES, pes hippocampi. It is also asked in 1 mark question answer. Now we are required to draw this diagram of hippocampus only, how it resembles pes hippocampi, and what are the components of hippocampus based on this diagram. And this diagram is given in all the textbooks, and this diagram is very important. You have to draw this diagram. So therefore, we draw this diagram. Please come on this side. We are having here space. So when we draw this diagram, first we draw this structure. Next, we will show that there will be this ventricular cavity. So here, first I will draw this ventricular cavity. Here I will complete this ventricular cavity. And what is this ventricular cavity? This ventricular cavity will be known as the inferior horn of lateral ventricle. Inferior horn of lateral ventricle, this cavity, very important. Next we draw this. So therefore now we will use here orange color. So once we draw, this will be the dentate gyrus, this entire portion. From the dentate gyrus we are drawing this C shape, and after drawing this C shape we will curve this, and therefore we show this in the form of a C where we curve it, and then we will show that it will form parahippocampal gyrus also, and it will pass here. So here this is the hippocampus C shape, and here we will write this portion as dentate gyrus. The first component of hippocampus, dentate gyrus, C shape. Second component, now here in the second component we will divide this second component from this to this. So therefore here we will draw, there will be so many pyramidal cells. There will be so many pyramidal cells, triangular shaped cells, and these all are pyramidal cells. This region where pyramidal neurons are there, it is known as cornu ammonis. Cornu ammonis. So therefore, as cornu ammonis. C-O-R-N-U ammonis. What does it contain? It contains pyramidal neurons. So many neurons, pyramidal cells, pyramidal neurons, they are known as. Third will be subiculum. So therefore, the third which we have, this area will be known as the subiculum, and therefore we will write this area as subiculum. S-U-B-I-C-U-L-U-M, subiculum. So the first structure of hippocampal formation is dentate gyrus. Second structure, this is the second structure, which is known as the cornu ammonis, and third structure, this is the third structure, which is known as subiculum. Here we show that this structure which is present here will be known as the parahippocampal gyrus. This will be parahippocampal gyrus. Now, the entire diagram is, please note down, it is a coronal section. So I am going to write here coronal section of hippocampus. It is a coronal section of hippocampus, and that coronal section is taken at what level? Inferior horn of lateral ventricle. Very important. Coronal section taken of hippocampus at inferior horn of lateral ventricle. Now, covering this C-shaped hippocampus, there will be alveus, the white matter starting of the white fibers, and that alveus we will show the white matter in the form of, here green color I am going to use. So what is basically alveus? Basically the alveus consists of the cells which are, the fibers which are derived from the pyramidal neurons. Which pyramidal neurons? Which are present in cornu ammonis. So the axons of the pyramidal neurons present in cornu ammonis will form, here they will form, what they will form? They will form the white matter, which will cover. Where does it cover? This white matter will cover the entire hippocampus, and therefore the color which I have drawn, the white matter which covers the hippocampus, now it will be known as alveus. This alveus will continue as fimbria. So therefore now it will be known as the fimbria. So here I will mention this as fimbria. Alveus will continue as fimbria, which will cover slowly. Posteriorly it will take its course and it will cover the dentate gyrus. So fimbria, alveus will continue posteriorly as fimbria, but basically it is the white matter, the fibers, the nerve fibers or the axons of the pyramidal neurons present in the cornu ammonis. And now this mass, hippocampus, C-shaped, is present. The definition which I discussed with you before a few minutes, it is elongated mass which will produce an elevation in the inferior horn of the lateral ventricle. So this is the inferior horn of lateral ventricle, where this elevation is produced in the inferior horn of lateral ventricle because of this mass, and this mass is of hippocampus. So this is the definition. Now this hippocampus, as I told you, on the surface of it, it is covered by numerous oblique grooves which will resemble claws of an animal. So it is known as pes hippocampi. Sometimes it is asked in 1 mark question answer. Pes, P-E-S, hippocampi. What is pes hippocampi? The anteriormost end of the hippocampus on the surface where it shows oblique grooves will resemble paws of the animal. So it is known as pes hippocampi. Third important point. Since it is C-shaped, see here the entire hippocampus is C-shaped structure. It resembles an Egyptian deity, and that Egyptian deity, because it resembles that, it is known as Ammon's horn. A-M-M-O-N-S. Sometimes this is also asked as 1 mark question answer. What is Ammon's horn? It is the anteriormost portion of the hippocampus, C-shaped, because it resembles an Egyptian deity. It is known as Ammon's horn. Just note down, 1 mark question answer. So therefore, now we are very much clear that this hippocampus is C-shaped. It consists of 3 parts: dentate gyrus, number 1, number 2, cornu ammonis, number 3, subiculum. And this subiculum will continue with para-hippocampal gyrus. This entire C-shaped hippocampus will be present as an elevation in the inferior horn of lateral ventricle. Covering this entire mass will be white matter in the form of alveus and fimbria. And here, surface covered with oblique grooves, it will be known as pes hippocampi. So therefore, this much is about the hippocampus coronal section. This diagram, you should draw it whenever limbic system you have to discuss, or whenever you are asked a short note on hippocampal formation or a short note on hippocampus. This is the basic structure of hippocampus, coronal section. So therefore, here we end our diagram of hippocampus, we complete our diagram of hippocampus. Now the last segment is left, that is fornix system. So now we start with the fornix, the efferent pathway of the hippocampal formation. For that, this diagram is also very interesting. Here we draw the para-hippocampal gyrus. Similarly, on this side also, same way, we will draw here the para-hippocampal gyrus. Then we will complete this with the dentate gyrus. We will show the dentate gyrus here. This will be the dentate gyrus. Here we are showing. Same way over here. This is the dentate gyrus. And then we will cross here. This dentate gyrus will continue this with fimbria. Here also we will continue this with the fimbria. Then the entire fimbria will curve around as the posterior column of fornix. These two posterior columns of fornix will join and form the body of fornix, which I am drawing. This body of fornix will go forwards, and then here it will split into the two anterior columns of the fornix. These two anterior columns of the fornix here, we show that it will once again split into two parts. So here we are showing it is split into two parts. This is how we show. Here we put an arrow in this direction where we have to show that the fibers will be passing in this direction. This is how we show the arrows. Very clear. Here we show and we mark this structure as dentate gyrus. Here we mark this structure as alveus. So alveus is the white fibers present on dentate gyrus, as we have discussed in the previous segment. It will continue with fimbria. Alveus will continue as fimbria. This is, we know, para-hippocampal gyrus. So here also para-hippocampal gyrus, the two lateral side. Now here this fimbria will continue posteriorly as, see here, we mark this as very important, posterior columns of fornix. They are called the posterior columns of fornix. So together they are called crura of fornix. So crura of fornix, they will curve around thalamus, posterior surface of the thalamus, and they will curve in such a way that they will form ventral fornix below the splenium of corpus callosum. So this fibers are ventral fornices. Remember the dorsal fornices. The dorsal fornices will be curving around gyrus fasciolaris, and they will continue on the superior surface of corpus callosum, where they will end in indusium crisium. So this is the ventral fornix. So here, these are the basic efferent fibers of the fornices. Therefore, this posterior columns of fornix, here they will be united with each other by short commissural fibers, and these short commissural fibers we are going to show. Let me show with blue color. These are the commissural fibers, and these commissural fibers will be known as the hippocampal commissure. So therefore, this will be known as the hippocampal commissure, commissures of the fibers of the fornix. Therefore, from here the two posterior columns of fornix will join and form the body of the fornix, and this body of fornix will be lying just below the septum pellucidum, and therefore this here we will mark this as the body of the fornix. This body of the fornix will be lying just below the septum pellucidum. Please come on this side where we show here. This is the body of the fornix lying below the septum pellucidum. So therefore, once it passes anteriorly, it will split in the two right and left anterior columns of the fornix. So now, since this is a sagittal section, please come on this side, we will show here, in this section, this is a complete horizontal section. We are showing the two temporal lobes, the posterior part, then we are showing the median portion also. So we are showing the entire continuation of the fornix system. The entire continuation from alveus, fimbria, posterior column of fornix, body of fornix, below the septum pellucidum, and anteriorly where it is dividing into the anterior columns of fornix, right and left anterior columns of the fornix, right and left. This is very interesting. Here, as it goes in the right and left cerebral hemispheres, anterior columns of fornix, they will split into two parts. Each right and left will split into two parts, and they will split in such a way that these fibers will form the precommissural fibers, and the fibers which are present here, they will be now known as the postcommissural fibers, because these fibers will pass in front of anterior commissure, and these fibers will pass behind the posterior commissure, behind the anterior commissure. So therefore, fibers passing in front of anterior commissure will be known as precommissural fibers, and the fibers passing behind the anterior commissure will be known as postcommissural fibers. So therefore, here we show a small cross section of anterior commissure. So this is the anterior commissure, fibers passing in front, precommissural, anterior commissure, fibers passing behind, postcommissural fibers. So the fornix is divided into two segments, precommissural and postcommissural fibers. Now, the precommissural fibers passing in front of anterior commissure will end in, so here we will write here, septal areas. They will end in the septal areas. They will directly end in the septal area. And what are septal areas, which we have discussed in limbic system part 2? That is the septal nuclei of septum pellucidum and the septal neurons which are present in the paraterminal gyrus. So in these two areas, septal areas, the precommissural fibers will terminate. Postcommissural, these postcommissural fibers, they will terminate in, this is also very interesting, they will terminate first in, let me draw here, first I will draw here, violet color, mammillary body. So this will be mammillary body where they will terminate. Here I will draw mammillary body. And let us mark this structure as mammillary body, which belongs to the hypothalamus. From mammillary body, it will pass, the fibers will be relayed to, anterior nucleus of thalamus, or simply the nuclei of the thalamus. So here we will mark this structure as the nuclei of thalamus through mammillothalamic tract. So the name of this arrow, this tract is mammillothalamic tract. From mammillary body through mammillothalamic tract to the nuclei of thalamus. Here we complete this diagram in which almost all the components of the fornix, the efferent channel of the hippocampal formation, the portion where it is ending, we can see. Now we will take the help of this previous diagram. Please come on this side. This is the previous diagram here. Here we will show these two columns. Now these two columns are dividing into precommissural and postcommissural fibers. So therefore now, if we want to show the pre and postcommissural fibers, we will simply take sagittal section. This is the sagittal section of one side only. So therefore we will show only one anterior column of fornix. If this is the anterior column of fornix on one side, here we will divide this anterior column of fornix into 1 and first will go below, so 2 in this way. So therefore these fibers will be known as precommissural fibers, and these precommissural fibers, they will pass in the septum pellucidum. Also they will pass in the lamina terminalis, paraterminal gyrus. In the paraterminal gyrons which are present in the paraterminal gyrus, precommissural fibers of the anterior column of fornix going in the septal area, very clearly we have shown. So therefore here we will mention these as precommissural fibers of the fornix going in the septal area, respectively septum pellucidum and the paraterminal gyrus. Now postcommissural. These are the postcommissural fibers. These postcommissural fibers will end in the, here we will draw mammillary body. So this is the mammillary body. They will pass in the mammillary body. So here I will just write down as mammillary body. From the mammillary body, they will be projecting directly into the thalamus through mammillothalamic tract. So therefore, this structure here, you can name this structure as mammillothalamic tract, and it will end in thalamus. From the thalamus, the fibers will directly relate to the cingulate gyrus. So from the thalamus, the efferent fibers from the thalamus, individual fibers, they are not the continuation of fornix. The fornix postcommissural fibers have ended in mammillary body, but from mammillary body, again efferent channel has passed in the form of mammillothalamic tract into the thalamus. So therefore ultimately the postcommissural fibers of fornix will end in the thalamus itself. But now from the thalamus, from some nuclei of thalamus, the fibers will then connect to the cingulate gyrus. That means thalamus will relate the sensations to the cingulate gyrus, and therefore from the cingulate gyrus through the cingulum, the sensations will be carried into the hippocampus. And therefore now, as we have drawn this complete circuit starting from alveus, fimbria, the alveus, the fimbria, the posterior columns of fornix, body of the fornix, anterior columns of fornix, precommissural fibers ending in septal area, postcommissural fibers, then very important landmarks, mammillary body, then nuclei of thalamus, from the thalamus to the cingulate gyrus, from the cingulate gyrus through the cingulum, this structure cingulum, to the entirely hippocampus back again. So this circuit which I have named is known as Pepez circuit, P-A-P-E-Z. Sometimes it is asked as one more question answer also, what is Pepez circuit, or name the components of Pepez circuit. Pepez circuit is nothing but it was propounded by Pepez himself that this is the main efferent channel of the entire hippocampal formation, in which, now see the structures which are connected with the hippocampus. Hypothalamus through mammillary body is connected to hippocampus. Nuclei of thalamus will be connected to the hippocampus. Similarly, septal areas are connected to the hippocampus. So these are the connections of hippocampus. Through this circuit, hippocampus is connected to these various parts of the brain. So this is known as hippocampal formation. Once again, the fornix system, fornices, or the efferent pathway of the hippocampus, it starts with alveus, continues as fimbria, then continues as posterior column of fornix, then it will become the body of fornix. Body of fornix anteriorly will split into two parts, the two anterior columns of fornix. Each anterior column of fornix will split into precommissural, postcommissural fibers, because it will split in front of anterior commission. So therefore, here we can even draw the anterior commission at this point. This will split precommissural and postcommissural. Precommissural fibers will pass in septal region. Postcommissural fibers will end in mammillary body of hypothalamus. From there through mammillotegmental tract into the thalamus. From the thalamus it can pass to the cingulate gyrus. Through the cingulum it will come back again to the hippocampus. This is the Pepez circuit. And these are the various components through which the entire hippocampus is connected. And one more, the last important component where it will be connected, if you can recollect, midbrain. Midbrain tegmental nuclei, which we had drawn in the limbic system part 2, where we had shown the connection of the midbrain through hypothalamus to the septal region. And that connection in the septal region was known as medial forebrain bundle. So medial forebrain bundle will also serve as an important connection in hippocampal system. Through medial forebrain bundle, the tegmental nuclei of midbrain will be connected to the hypothalamic nuclei. Through the hypothalamic nuclei, it will be connected to the cingulate gyrus and septal area. So in short, all the components of limbic system will have these connections. Now, since we have finished the fornix system of the hippocampal connection, this is very clear. Now the entire limbic system, the connections of limbic system will depend upon our these three parts of lectures, limbic system part 1, part 2 and today our part 3. If you recollect the olfactory pathway, number 1. Second, the septal areas connections. Then third, if you recollect, the entire fornix hippocampal system. And fourth, if you recollect, amygdala, amygdaloid body and stria terminalis. These four components, olfactory pathways, septal area and its pathways, the amygdaloid nucleus, stria terminalis, its pathway, and the hippocampal formation with fornix. These four important components will serve as the entire connections anatomy of limbic system. Here we end our entire limbic system. With this we end neuroanatomy. Thank you very much.